father of the automotive industry. That's how they deservedly call Henry Ford, because he created a whole network of automobile factories. Ford received 161 patents, and this is why he is considered a greatest inventor. He was the first to use a conveyor belt for mass production of vehicles. He created and applied advanced technologies in the industry. At the same time, he did things that caused sarcasm, criticism, and sometimes a storm of indignation. He was a very controversial man. This, Henry Ford. Car King, or Hitler's favorite American. Here are just a few examples of Henry Ford's odd versatility and contradictory nature. He collaborated with the mafia, hiring its former members to work, and if any of them were arrested, he took care of their families. He was an ardent pacifist, and when the First World War began, he spent $1 million, a huge amount of money by the standards of those years, on anti-war propaganda. On his own initiative, with a group of pacifists, he sailed to Europe on the Oscar II ship as an envoy of peace, urging everyone to end the war as soon as possible. However, European newspapers harshly ridiculed this project of his, baptizing the vessel as Ship of Fools. Ford, having failed his mission, returned to the United States. However, he abandoned his pacifist views in the spring of 1917, when America joined the war on the side of the Entente. His factories were granted defense contracts. In addition to vehicles, the production of gas masks, helmets, cylinders for Liberty aircraft engines, and, at the close of the war, light tanks and even submarines was launched. At the same time, Ford maintained that he was not going to profit from defense contracts and would return the profit he received to the government. He was an anti-Semite and even received the Grand Cross of the German Eagle from Adolf Hitler for public activities in that direction. Henry Ford provided significant financial support to the Nazi Party in Germany. His portrait hung in the Munich residence of Hitler. Ford was the only American whom Hitler publicly admired in his book Mein Kampf. However, after the outbreak of the Second World War, he overhauled his company, and it had a huge impact on boosting the U.S. military-industrial complex, thus tributing a lot of the collapse of Hitler's Germany. He was a staunch supporter of the theory of reincarnation and believed in his last incarnation. He died as a soldier in the Battle of Gettysburg. He was a high-ranking Freemason and claimed that Masonry is the best balance wheel the United States has. After watching this video, you will find out who this extraordinary person really was, who, despite his iron will in business, was going from one extreme to the other in many other matters. Henry was born on July 30th, 1863, in a family of immigrants from Ireland, and as soon as 16 years old, he fled from home to Detroit, where he immediately started working. With no formal education to speak of, but self-educated and learning skills through practice, his career track started with assistantship to motorman, went up to mechanical engineer, then chief engineer at the Edison Electric Company, and then co-owner of the Detroit Automobile Company, ending up becoming the founder of the Ford Motor Company. He had his first car assembled in 1908, while throughout the next 18 years, over 13 million Ford cars were produced. During Ford's life, his fortune, including movable and immovable property, was estimated at more than $188 billion. His company employed about 200,000 people. In 1925, he created his own air company, later named Ford Airways. One of his famous quotes says, "If there's any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own." But that was not all. Ford had an extraordinary skill of gaining profit from everything, while not saving on employees and always working to ensure that cars produced by his companies were available to ordinary people. The minimum wage of his workers, $5 a day, was the highest in the USA in 1914. He raised workers' wages by only 10%, but ended up with his earnings increased by 400%. In the same year, the corporation's factories, instead of 2 shifts of 9 hours each, began to work around the clock in 3 shifts of 8 hours each. This made it possible to provide additional jobs for thousands of people. Ford entitled workers to have shares in the company's profits and built a model workers' village for them. With such measures, he solved the problem of employee turnover, and the best workers in Detroit started to flock to his factories. Thanks to this, labor productivity at his factories grew while the cost of personnel training dropped. He gradually cut the working week, reducing it from 48 to 40 hours. And, attention here, the repair team at the Ford factories received money only when and if there were no mechanism failures of the factory equipment. That is, while they were having a rest. But as soon as something broke down, the company stopped paying them salaries until the repairs were fully completed. Thanks to this, the employees sought to carry out repair work as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We can say that Ford applied something like the method of Oriental medicine, to do every effort to keep their patients in good health so that not to have to heal them. Maybe that's why an inscription on the gates of his factories read as follows: "Keep in mind that God created man without spare parts." Original technologies of management and scientific organization of labor he introduced prove the point that Ford was a brilliant manager. Therefore, the ideas of Fordism are still relevant today. Yet, the press was never inclined to let him alone. He once even sued a Chicago newspaper that called him ignorant. During the trial, the lawyer for the newspaper, apparently wanting to demonstrate that the disputed statement was accurate, asked Ford a question. How many soldiers did Britain send to America to crush the uprising of 1776? Ford replied, "I do not know the exact number of the soldiers who were sent, but I'm sure that a much fewer number returned home." From 1901 to 1913, Ford kept being interested in car racing, taking part in them as a designer and driver. By the way, he was the first owner of a driver's license in his native state of Michigan. Under the patronage of the mayor, the Detroit police had to issue a license to Ford so that there would be no problems for the movement of his self-propelled vehicle in the streets of the city. He since had a full legal right to move on his car in the street of the city at any time and without restrictions. In fact, he opened the way for all subsequent motorists. Ford really knew everything about cars, including advertising. He once said, "I don't know what my profits from advertising will be, but even if I earn $1, I will invest it in advertising." He made a super publicity by publishing in newspapers photos of gangsters Bonnie and Clyde in front of their gunned-down car, the only part of which left intact was the door of a Ford V8 car. Photos spread all over the world, and Ford car sales soared. Once a car thief wrote a letter to Ford in which he expressed his admiration for his cars and promised since to steal only Fords. It was an equally brilliant publicity stunt for the car king. Indeed, he knew how to make out of nothing something that turned to be what he wanted. Do you think that Ford's merits as an investor and businessman outweigh his questionable views on certain social and political issues? If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Thank you for watching.